Join us for an interview with Faten Matmati, a female CEO whose consultancy WeaveLines out of Tunisia helps level up tech startups by providing an end-to-end design and development process that brings their products or services to the right market and the right consumer. Now let's level up by meeting Faten.
And that was mainly after I worked with an early stage startup, and I enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed, everything about startups and challenges and trying to have your pitch deck nice and informative, and go to pitching events, have the whole journey of pitching your product. So this is how I kind of discovered, maybe I need to do my own business, have my own business, and I will do I will enjoy it.
So let's get into this. The US is the largest tech market in the world, holding a value of almost $2 trillion, and the rise in technological startups worldwide continues at a healthy pace. And there's a reason for it. A recent New York Times article outlined just how fast growth can be accumulated in tech startups. They point out that in 2015, there were 80 tech startups valued at a unicorn level, meaning a valuation of $1 billion or more. In 2022, there were more than 900 unicorns. That's a lot of rainbows and glitter. We've all heard the tales before. The inspiring origin stories of entrepreneurs with their hearts on their sleeve and the world in their eyes, working tirelessly at little garages before and after working full-time jobs, and eventually quitting their jobs altogether to achieve their goals, with many eventually landing multi-million-dollar investment deals. There's no question these stories can be infectious, but they can give the wrong impression that success is easily attainable. Of course, you need to believe in yourself, but most of the time, success is indifferent to how much faith you put in yourself. When it comes to running a startup and succeeding, it's a tough road, and the numbers speak for themselves. Most analysts suggest that up to 60% of businesses will fail in the first 5 years. And what causes this rate of failure? Well, according to CB Insights, it mainly comes down to 3 things: running out of capital, a lack of market need, or being outworked by a competitor. This week's guest, Faten Matmati, and her team out of North Africa are working to increase success by helping tech firms put the end user experience at the heart of everything they do. Working with tech startups in North America, WeaveLines validates ideas to ensure they fit the market and manifest those ideas into impactful, top-of-the-line digital solutions. In this interview, we talk about the genesis of WeaveLines, Faten's connection to tech, and her love for tech startups and how she's growing her business by cultivating those clients 5,000 miles away in North America, and much more. Now let's meet the incredible Faten. Super excited to introduce you to a very interesting entrepreneur coming to us from Tunis in Tunisia. And I'd like to introduce Faten Matmati, who is the founder of a company that supports early stage tech companies. And that company is called WeaveLines. So Faten is coming to us with a really interesting background. First of all, she is, as I said, based in Tunisia. She specializes in working with North American tech firms. And we're about to hear what that journey entailed. So Faten, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Robert. I really appreciate your invite, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
So Faten, the whole point of the creators is to inspire people to get into business, or inspire people to find a new sense of purpose in their business. And my personal view is that starts with, the personal drive and the connection that one has to the business they've created. And so I always like to start, first of all, tell us what WeaveLines does, and then tell us where you started and how you got here.
Sure. So I have started WeaveLines about 5 years ago. And that was after me coming back home to Tunisia after finishing my degree in the United States. So in the United States, I did a master's degree in information management. And then I also worked with a startup. And then once I come back to my home country, I wanted to continue to support startups and continue do what I do, because I really loved it a lot. And I think it's kind of very different from management consulting in general. So when I was back in Tunisia, my previous employer was my first client. And I hired a tech team, and I pitched to my previous employer the idea of me starting a tech company in Tunisia to continue to support them and rebuild their MVP from scratch. So the purpose was to build like the product out of the MVP, and work on the rebranding of the platform, and then the development, and obviously like deployment and maintenance. So this is how I started WeaveLines. Then I kind of, got more into startups and early stage startups in general. And I started to get some refers from other early stage startups in upstate New York, from different founders. So they are usually at the first phase. Some of them are at the idea stage, and others are a little bit more advanced in the process. So there I wanted to apply my skill set in product management, and I started to provide kind of consulting for founders to understand their product. So, I mean, as you know, pitching an idea is good, but then you need to kind of refine it into a product. And this is what I help my clients do. So I hear the pitch, I understand their market, I do my research on their competitors. I understand a little bit how they want to be aligned with the competition, and I help them shape their idea into a product. And we do that through product management, basically. So we think through the product backlog, the roadmap, the features, what to include at the MVP stage, what can be done a little bit later. So I help them basically answer all of those questions that sometimes investors ask founders. They want to really make sure that they understand their product properly, they understand their customer persona properly, they ensure the product market fit early on. And during this phase, I help them do that. So the second phase of of our work as WeaveLines, or like the second kind of service line, is converting the backlog into UX and UI prototypes. So we basically translate the user stories into user journeys, and we validate the workflow in the app. So we do that using, design tools and then prototyping tools. And we deliver to the founder a clickable prototype where they have the whole user journey mapped up. And they can really show it to their early adopters or sometimes early investors to validate their product and their product idea. So this is like the second service that we do. Third, once they have enough user feedback, we have done many tweaks on the wireframes and on the user journeys, and we are really sure about the scope of the MVP for implementation. We basically like just kick off the development process, and it's kind of pretty straightforward because we have done many of the validations early on. We have the brand identity already kind of fixed, and we know exactly what we are going to build and how long it's going to take us. So this is like the third aspect that we do.
So tell us about your background then. Like, where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? And what's your connection to North America in particular? Like, what brought you to the U.S.? So where were you coming from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was born and raised in Tunisia, Tunis, exactly. And then I did my software engineering degree here in Tunis. Then I applied to the Fulbright scholarship in the US. And this is how I got accepted to pursue a master's degree in information management in Syracuse University. So I did my master's degree in the United States. And then I was supposed to work in management consulting as, a technology consultant kind of career. Then I kind of got my first internship in a startup in Tech Garden in Syracuse, New York. And this is how my journey with startups kind of, started, because I was surrounded by startups in the Tech Garden in Syracuse. And I enjoyed the journey a lot. And this was kind of what made me change my mind about pursuing a career in management consultant or like startups. So this is how.
I'm curious about we hear an awful lot about the fact that there are, while the numbers are growing, it's still women still represent a minority in the tech field. And I'm curious, what was it like in Tunisia going to university and studying in a technology area?
Actually, surprisingly, in Tunisia, we have more female students going to the university and finishing their degrees than male students. So in the in engineering school, we have many women. It's at least I would say 50% or 55-45. So it's pretty kind of equal.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So we don't really have. As a woman who, I'm born and raised here, and then I went to school here. I have never really felt any kind of a disadvantage of me being a female engineer in my home country. I always thought it's kind of the same for everybody.
That is fantastic. That's really, really interesting to hear. So when you went to the United States as a Fulbright scholar, what was the experience like? What was different about your experience in studying originally in Tunisia versus the experience in the United States?
Well, I think it was very enriching culturally because, as you know, grad school in the United States, it's pretty international. So you get to meet many people around the world, not just Americans or locals. So that was kind of I think the highlight of my experience is getting to meet international people in a very, small city in upstate New York, and getting to know many people from around the world. For school wise, it wasn't really that different. In the kind of, it was different, but not that much. So the process is a little bit different than in Tunisia. But then I think that our educational system in Tunisia kind of prepares us to be, we can be top students if you want in other universities, because we are used to, have the curiosity to learn, and we don't really have things that are kind of super clear. So the teachers usually kind of challenge us to know more than what you have in your lectures, and to be to do your own research. And I think that this attitude kind of helped me to adjust easily in the US. So yeah, that's my personal perspective.
So when you were going through that process, was it always your intention to become an entrepreneur?
No, to be honest. I feel like early on, when I was a student in software engineering, I was sure that I want to become a project manager at some point. So to move more towards management rather than development, to become, a manager rather than a super techie person. So that was kind of a choice. But then moving towards product management and startups, that kind of came a little bit longer, on the way in my journey. And that was mainly after I worked with an early stage startup, and I enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed, everything about startups and challenges, and trying to have your pitch deck nice and informative, and go to pitching events, have the whole journey of pitching your product. So this is how I kind of discovered, maybe I need to do my own business, have my own business, and I will do I will enjoy it. So yeah, this is how I kind of changed my mind.
Made that share. So excuse me. So I'm curious then. Obviously you had this connection to the United States because you'd studied there, but you didn't remain there. You chose to return to your country of origin. So I'm curious, how did you put the pieces together that you would actually say, okay, I'm going to actually create a business, but I'm actually going to focus my energy on cultivating clients, 7,000 miles away from where I'm actually based. How did that all come about? What was that experience like, journey like?
So when when I had to come back to Tunisia, it was first, because it was part of my deal of the Fulbright scholarship. You have to go back to your country after being granted the Fulbright scholarship to actually bring the knowledge back to your home country and bring the experience back to where you were born and raised. So, like this was kind of the first thing about me coming to my home country just after finishing my grad school, almost. Then, I think that, now I see like the real point, because it's true that it's important that you bring the knowledge, the experience to where you were born and raised, and try to benefit other people from that experience. So once I was back to Tunisia, I was still kind of super attached to my network in the United States. I saw the potential of working with early stage startups in the United States, and I wanted to continue to support that and follow that path. So here in Tunisia, the entrepreneurship ecosystem is very dynamic. It's kind of getting even more interesting the last few years. But then for early stage startups, we still have lack of access to capital early on. So if you are at the idea stage, you are really less likely to raise funds. In the United States, it's different. There are some people who can raise, a few hundreds of dollars, just like at the idea stage. They have a good pitch deck, they have a good idea, they have a few leads of clients, and then they start raising money, and then they build their prototype and launch and take it from there and grow. In Tunisia, for startups, the experience is still founders would have to bootstrap. They would have to kind of invest their own savings. It's kind of difficult to start with good capital. So most of them usually try to work everything, in-house. So it's usually like a couple of co-founders who start their own idea and they work on it. And they do development, they do product management, they do everything. And they don't really think about outsourcing services or extending their internal team, because simply they don't really have the budget to do that. So I knew early on that if I want to continue working with startups that might be looking for, offshore services for product management and for software engineers, I have to kind of continue to nourish my network in the United States. Also build some, partnership maybe with accelerators or incubators in North America in general, who would be willing to, talk about WeaveLines to their cohorts or graduates of startups who might have some funds to kind of hire people offshore, and then they can be my clients. So this is why I kind of, decided to work with the North American market, and I'm still trying to go after that market rather than thinking about working locally.
So what's your value proposition then to customers, to clients?
Yeah, that's a great question. So our main value proposition is product management. That's like the first thing. Second, we have custom software development, mobile or web development. That comes, second. But what usually founders are looking for, or might need help for, is product management. Someone to help them understand their product before really starting to try to build something that they don't really know exactly how it's going to look like, or why are we going to have this feature or not. So WeaveLines value proposition is really for product management, which is something that usually, typically it's not something that a company would outsource. Usually, even mid-sized companies, when it comes to product management, it's kind of highly, tied or aligned with the business strategy of the company. It's really difficult to think about outsourcing product management. For founders, this is kind of very helpful because it will help them to understand their product thoroughly before starting to spend money on MVPs and products that may not have like the product market fit. So this is like the real value proposition that we provide. And if you compare our services to other dev shop companies around the world, there are obviously like millions of other companies who do exactly the same. But most of them are usually in the staff augmentation model. So they basically provide you with talent, but then you will have to manage them, and you own management. However, for a few founders, especially early stage founders, they might lack this ability to be able to understand exactly how they need to manage a digital project. And they are super excited about the potential of their startup, the conversation that they have with early investors and early adopters. And they kind of think that, well, the product will it will be just done, as long as I keep the hype with investors and with early adopters, it will be done. However, they may understand a little bit longer in the process after they start seeing demos of things that have been done, that it's not really exactly what they want. And this is how, we help them to kind of avoid this kind of situation, to really have a full understanding about their product before starting to build in it.
I'm curious about this. So you've got somebody with a tech background who's created a concept for a business idea, and your task is to help them realize that idea, at least to an early enough stage where they can raise investment or present it to a client. And I'm wondering, how much does your background as an engineer and how much does psychology play into your ability to work with early stage founders?
Well, I think for early stage founders, what they need most is a real consultant who can really advise them on their strategy. So I try to be that person, or I try to build WeaveLines around this kind of idea of a trusted partner, someone who's not, we are not investors, we are not an accelerator program. We are just here to help you, use your savings wisely, efficiently, to be able to go to the next level and grow your company. So I think my software engineer degree definitely helps me today a lot in understanding the scope and challenges of an idea of, a pitch of a product. So that's true that it's really helpful. But then also my consulting experience and my degree in information management helped me a lot in understanding or also acquiring the basic consulting skill sets of listening carefully, understanding the pain point, and then trying to address the pain point. So I think that kind of attitude helped me to develop good conversations with founders, to build the trust early on, and then they trust me as an engineer, but also as kind of a consultant.
So the obvious question, when we first met, and I'll raise it now, is why would a North American company do business with somebody that's in North Africa?
Sure. That's a great question. That's a great question. Well, if we speak about offshoring software development, it's true that, being a Tunisian company in North Africa, we are aligned with the market here, especially with Eastern Europe. So we are still a very good deal kind of thing for North American companies looking to offshore their services. So that's one thing. But then, I think many of my clients, or leads, during my first conversation, when I say, hey, we are based in Tunisia, I have this kind of idea of, okay, is that Eastern Europe, or is that, South Africa, or, it's there's a confusion about geography. And then I explain where we are exactly located. And then we have, nice small talk about the Mediterranean Sea and the weather and everything. And then the flow starts to kind of, be settled, and we have a nice conversation about the product. So at the end of the day, I don't really think that location matters a lot in terms of like getting a new clients, as long as you can be flexible and try to kind of find a matched time window between us and then our clients in North America. As long as the trust is there. They know that every time they will email you, you will reply within 24 hours. You will be there if something happens with, bugs or anything occurs. So as long as you are reliable and trustworthy, location doesn't really, interfere a lot. Specifically now, as you know, like after the COVID pandemic, everybody is a little bit more flexible about working remotely. So let's say today you are going, there are some companies who are moving to the remote mode and the whole company is becoming kind of remote. So if the executive of the companies are willing to have all of their staff working remote, then why wouldn't be, something that you can actually outsource? Originally, the idea about offshore or in-house is mainly location. But then now today, the whole world is moving to remote, and remote is by definition is outside of the office. So if it's outside of the office, then it can be also, outsourced to another company, as long as you can really manage it efficiently and the dynamic with the company is good and efficient.
But the other side is that often when you deal with these companies that are overseas, they just don't do business the way, they don't have the same kind of dynamic imperative that a North American company has. They don't necessarily work the same pace. They don't work in the same way. They don't understand. They don't operate to the same level of expectations often. And I think that just as an observation, I think that you're potentially underappreciating the fact that you personally are a very nice bridge, I think, between what the promise of offshoring is versus the need to really relate to and understand the needs of the marketplace, just as an observation. And I'm wondering, so as somebody that has been, you're an early stage business yourself, what has been your experience so far in trying to sell yourself in the market? Like what have been the ups and the downs of that experience?
Selling services is always more challenging than selling just a product, something that you can demo and showcase to your clients. So that's always one challenge. The second challenge is for me to reach out to new leads, right timing. They have to have some budget that they are willing to spend. They have to have a commitment to work on their idea full time and maybe quit their jobs and have full focus on their product in order for it to succeed and for me to provide them with the best services we can. So I think it's always a matter of timing and then sometimes also budget because sometimes we speak to a few entrepreneurs who have great ideas, but then they are still really at the early stage of their idea, and then they have trouble to kick off. So that's also it might take longer.
And so my final question is this. Thinking back on your experience, now it sounds like you've grown up in quite a liberal environment. You've gone to university where women were really strongly represented. But I'm curious, what would your advice be if you're talking to your younger self? What would your advice be to a young woman starting out with the desire to become an entrepreneur? What would be the kind of key lessons that you pass on and say, Be aware of this. Think about this. Stay true to this.
Great question. So, well, I think when I was young, I was kind of amazed by the idea of having a great career in a big firm, like to kind of grow up the ladder, like from an intern to VP of a big company. So that was like my dream at some point. And then I kind of realized early on that maybe it's not like the perfect life that I want to have. Maybe I don't want to have the consulting life of traveling around the world, but then really have nowhere where to settle, kind of. So I decided to kind of go after the thing that really motivates me, which is having a company, a team, a product, something that I can cherish, that I love working on day and night, and then that I can kind of make it a brand or like make it bigger, so grow the business. So I think what kind of made me change my mind is when I kind of realized this is like my comfort zone. So it's not really about following success stories of, hey, I'm doing a consulting degree, then I have to follow the consulting path. Maybe it's good, like you get like good skill set, but then you can utilize them elsewhere, and you can really find your internal peace, and be happy, and work on something that you love and cherish. And then I think one of the key things that kind of helped me become or like start WeaveLines and stay around now for 5 years, even like given the whole pandemic of COVID, which kind of shut down many businesses, and for an early stage company, it was a super risk that we could have just like begun in a couple of years. So I think one of the major things that also helped me is having a great team, and to try to always kind of grow my team with people who I believe are smarter than I am, that they are great at their job, and like in the specific expertise. And then for me to know exactly when I need to hold off on some tasks, like say that, okay, now I don't think that I can do this and this and this at the same time, and I'm not going to be doing a great job. So maybe I need to have another person in my team who would do it much better than me, and who have like the great expertise. So, now we are about like 10 people company, and we are, still growing. And then, like the whole idea is to bring people that they trust you and trust your vision, and trust where you want to go and how you want to grow, and also at the same time give them like the room to do their job properly, to exceed their own expectation, and to be happy to be part of the journey with me early on, and to follow the dream that we are all working on. So I think like those are like the two things that now I realize are very important in becoming what we are today.
Well, Faten, that is a wonderful place to end our discussion. I think that you're awesome, and I really, really want to see you succeed over here. And I'd love to get you into Canada, because of course Tunisia is French-speaking language, or French-speaking country, as is Canada. So I look forward to seeing WeaveLines expand its footprint in Canada. So I hope this interview will help in some small way. So thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Much appreciated. Thanks.
Thanks so much for sticking to the end of our interview with Faten Matmati, CEO of WeaveLines. This little North African business startup has a very big potential, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for this bright founder. And remember, if you enjoyed our interview, please remember to hit like and subscribe for more great stories of inspired entrepreneurs. We hope to see you next time.